It is the BKBK podcast where sports and the culture collide and the New York Jets reign supreme. I'm your host, Brandon Phillips, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Kerry Taylor, Brian Taylor, and Captain Kyle McKenna. So we are here, all right, and we're coming to you live just as the Jets game concluded against the LA Chargers, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the NBA. Okay, you know what, guys? I'm getting a phone call here, and I had to get rid of it. So that messed up my intro. But anyway,
this is called live. This is live, right? That's what happens in live.
Live.
They put out the official word that their season will be a 72-game season rather than an 82-game season, and we're gonna talk about that. That's gonna start on December 22nd. And then, of course, the NBA draft that was this past week. And the Knicks made a pretty good draft pick at the number 8 pick in the first round, and we're going to talk about that as well. But let's start off with what we just saw with the New York Jets, and let's talk about that. All righty. So the first thing we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about basically the Jets versus the Chargers. And aside from Sam Darnold, the Jets have all of their offensive weapons in play. However, all of their starting cornerbacks are either on IR or were cut. So how do you guys think that affected our game today?
First of all, I think that was Trevor Lawrence calling you B, saying, good job today, fellas. Good job today, fellas. You know, we're still in line for the number 1 pick, which is great. We didn't look good in the first half, started making some plays that made sense in the second half, like, I don't know, throwing the football. I'm tired of seeing run after run with Frank Gore for whatever reason in between the tackles. That's the only thing that we have on our play sheet on both sides, as Brandon likes to point out. And, we lost the game, but I felt like it was a winnable ball game. We saw a quarterback that's a rookie coming in and lighting things up in Herbert, right, which was nice to see. I mean, it was like, a little twinkle in my eye just watching a quarterback actually do some good things out there. So that was very impressive, and he's had a heck of a rookie season.
I think Herbert only made like one mistake as a rookie, and I loved seeing that. I was like, wow, he was blowing my mind.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed. Yeah.
He has a certain thing about him that is, smooth delivery. I think someone had said in the text comments, effortless. He has like that effortless.
That was me, Kyle. That was me. Thanks for the credit.
Yeah. So it's like you watch that, and it's really quite the opposite of what we see in Darnold, even when he's at his best. When he's at his best, it looks very, he tries really hard and he goes out there and he moves in the pocket and stuff like that. But you never get that, like, I'm just going to sit back here and throw. You even see it more from a Flacco than you do Darnold.
That's a good point. I mean, he does move around a lot, and obviously mobility is one of the things that is a positive from, Darnold's perspective. But, hang in the pocket there. You're going to get hit. It is what it is. But, keep your eyes downfield and deliver the ball accurately. And maybe he scrambles around a little bit too much because he has that as a plus on his sheet. And, maybe that's an issue here or there. But, from my perspective, knowing that we want to get the number 1 pick at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to see. I'd like for us to at least score a touchdown and maybe miss the 2-point conversion to get a little closer to, but at the end of the day, we lost, but some of the players look pretty good. Our corners look pretty horrible on one side, but the other side, not so much. And I don't know why the guy's 37.
Bryce Hall.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson is 38.
Yeah, so Bryce looked pretty good. He looked pretty
struggled
good.
at times.
He struggled at times in the beginning.
Early he struggled, and I think he had a PI. But they didn't throw his way a lot after that. And I think, he played tough defense. He was in their face, and they started going to the opposite side, which was very easy to do. So that's probably why they didn't even come back to him.
Well, they were attacking the slot and they were attacking the other side, so much so that Herbert set the rookie record for most passing yards, and he threw for 366 passing yards, of course, against the New York Jets. And everyone in every single game this year has set some sort of record against the New York Jets, whether it's a personal record or a franchise record. And I don't think this is the first, second, third, or even fourth time I've said that during the course of this season. So the Jets are absolutely horrible. But, hey, listen, kudos to Herbert. This kid, every ball he threw was a tight spiral. And the kid can put some heat on it. He was a really good decision maker, and honestly, I wish we had him. But then again, I'm not sure because I feel like Gase is a quarterback ruiner. So who knows? I feel like if Sam Darnold were in San Diego, he'd be playing much better than he's playing now.
Nah.
Maybe not to the level of Herbert,
nah.
but he would definitely be playing much better than he is now. And they probably wouldn't be on the cusp of potentially trying to get rid of him or trade him. They would probably, he might be a good quarterback.
You said probably about 6 times, first of all.
Yeah,
so I
you can only right. But
you can say definitely. Sure. You can say definitely. Because that seems a little bit more affirmative an answer than probably maybe.
I'm not a soothsayer.
Well, you don't have to be a soothsayer. You could be your opinion. You could say I definitely believe, or you could say I maybe believe.
Here it is. Here it is right here.
Right.
If you're in a Gase system with a Gase as your head coach, you are not going to flourish as a quarterback. You want some facts?
Mm-hmm.
There's some facts right there. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and say that he's definitely going to be better. How much better? I'm not sure, but he's definitely going to be better in another system, especially in the system that Anthony Lynn has out there in San Francisco. How much better? What the probability is, I'm not sure, but he's definitely going to be better. There's your answer.
And I would say this as proof of that. Let's look at today's game. We don't even have to go through the games that we've seen in the recent past. Let's look at this game. The commentators detailed specifically exactly what we were saying on the text chain. Why isn't he throwing the ball long? In the first half, there were only 5 passing attempts. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. From the perspective of a veteran quarterback who can throw the ball, who has placement. We can just look back at last game against
Patriots,
New England, right? Where they did make some attempts to go long and throw the ball long, and Perriman came through for them. They waited until the second half to throw the ball. They only threw the ball 30 times.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, just to back up Kerry's point too. The Jets secondary started 3 rookies. Abysmal, like probably the worst secondary that you could put out in the NFL today of all the games that were out there. But the Chargers secondary wasn't much better. That guy that I think his name was Campbell or whoever they had starting at corner on the offense's right side was somebody that you wanted to pick on. And they didn't quite do that until the second half. And Perriman, who has 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games, is a guy that you can throw that ball deep to. Mims is showing that he's a guy that you can throw that ball deep to too. So you're like Derwin James and the rest of the injuries that they've had in their secondary too. It's not like they were putting out there an all-pro defensive backfield Legion of Boom type of scenario. So the fact that the game plan was to make the Chargers tired and then try that in the second half, that's
it's absurd. It's absurd.
It's bad coaching.
And this is coming off of the bye too. No?
Yeah.
So coming off of the bye, this is the best plan you could come up with to purposefully just keep running in the first half to make them tired in the second half and then actually start throwing the football after you're down by 3 scores?
But I think this is the first time too that we haven't had to guess what their game plan was. I guess they had the meeting with Rich Gannon. They told him what the game plan was, and then we watch the whole thing unfold. So it's not like we're trying to figure out, hey, I wonder what they're trying to do. No, that was exactly what they were trying to do, and it's a horrible idea.
That speaks to coach. That speaks to coaching. That speaks
does
right.
Yeah,
so again, what I mean, the discussions that we've had off camera are how would another quarterback do in this system? Whether it's the top 30, the 30 quarterbacks, the other 30 starting quarterbacks in this league, what would they do in this system? And I would tell you what I would say with confidence is that they would be just as underwhelming as our current quarterback is. And that includes Flacco, because he was underwhelming.
Flacco hasn't been completely underwhelming when he's had the attempts.
No, he hasn't.
When he's had the attempts.
Flacco had
when he's had the attempts long.
Flacco had 30 attempts. He completed 15. That's only 50%. And he also threw a pick six to one of those incapable DBs, that the Chargers put out there. So I mean,
listen, you would have done that pick six if you had watched the film that all of us watched and saw how that slant out concept,
right,
how much we run that and how much we throw it, anybody would have jumped that route.
Absolutely. I mean, especially on the long side of the field.
Coaching and play calling. Coaching and play calling.
That was like the first offensive play or the second offensive series?
Second offensive series, I believe.
But the first play of the series.
Second offensive series.
Yeah.
So for us.
I mean, Brandon, you for instance, you've been complaining about all those out routes to Berrios all year. And that's
not even
that's
to
all
Berrios,
that was.
but to everyone.
Yeah, but that's all that was that it was, and it's a drive starter, so it's definitely like your scripted stuff. Yeah. So if it's the second series, that guy watched film, he knew what was going on. I'm not saying he's Ed Reed, but he was watching film.
Okay.
So that was that I think was a function of that. But when you look at the the New England game and this last game, when Flacco's a professional, he's a diminished professional on his last years, but he goes out there and he has a ceiling that he might reach or he might not. But at least there's like a track record there. Mm-hmm. I don't think that Flacco in a Gase offense is comparable to a Darnold or comparable like within 3 years in the league type of situation. But getting back to that question, like, is it Gase? Is it Darnold? I mean,
so what was the full question though, Kyle? Could you reiterate the full question? Because it wasn't. I think Kerry, kind of stated it differently than how you put it in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I stated my question. He has a separate question.
The question I asked in the chat was, can anyone here name a starter in the league? My dog is trying to get in on this.
Right.
Can anybody name a starter in the league that Sam Darnold is better than?
Again, that's a hard question if you're evaluating the quarterbacks on their own teams, just on their own teams, based on the performance that their coaches have contributed to, their offensive line has contributed to, their wide receiver core has contributed to, all of which are diminished on the Jets.
And quarterback too. So, if you're talking about the entirety of it, okay, and flashes of what the flashes means a small sample size, and the rest of it has been what?
Has been lacking.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's really all I'm getting at. He has to, there's a pie of responsibility here and how our offense has looked in the past 3 years. Gase has been on for 2. And during that period of time, he has a good chunk of responsibility for the way the offense has looked, right? there are times where, you know what, we've had bad offensive line play, and there are times where the offensive line look bad because of somebody holding on to the ball too long, right? And it's hard to discern, even in stats, in Pro Football Focus numbers, or in whatever, the differentiator between, hey, you know what, Darnold held on to the ball too. So perfect example, because we were in one of those Facebook groups or whatever else. They were talking about the play where Darnold got injured, where he injured his shoulder this year, right? And they put out there, whose fault was this? And I chimed in, it's Darnold's fault. He held the ball too long and ended up getting driven into the ground where there was a wide receiver wide open across, but instead of staying in the pocket, he tried to move over to the left, and now he's on the ground. It's a sack to one of the offensive linemen, right? He can't erase that. It's a sack to one of the offensive linemen that he supposedly gave up, right? There is an injury now to the quarterback that we can't get him back on the field because of at this point. And there is, again, the overall numbers for Pro Football Focus or this or that the offensive line now has to own because of the quarterback play in that situation. And I would say that there are a number of situations where, due to lack of accuracy, due to holding the ball too long, due to having happy feet, or not seeing the field, that we have a quarterback that has shown flashes once a year, maybe
not
twice,
once a year.
maybe twice
Don't say
a
that.
year.
Take that back. Take that back.
Okay.
Take the once a year back. There was a long run at the end of, was it his first year, or
I don't know.
Right.
There was a 4-game stretch maybe that was
no,
last year.
It was like a 6 to 7 game stretch where we did see what we wanted to project into. This is the quarter. We have the quarterback of the future.
How many games has he played?
In total, this is his third year, right?
Sure.
This is his third year. This year, not so much because he's been hurt and or he had what did he have?
Mono.
He missed 4 games last year.
So that's 12. So
and how many games did he miss for Mono this year?
He didn't miss any games for Mono this year.
That's Mono last year. That's Mono last year.
Mono was last year.
Last year. Yeah, right, but this year was just injury, right?
So last year I think he missed 3 games, and then we had a week 4 bye. I think we had a bye in the very first bye of the week. So he missed like 4 games, but 3 was because of the sickness.
So let's give him because I don't know the exact number and I'll look it up. So let's give him 12 games.
We need the stats of his.
So let's give him 12 games last year. Let's give him 12 games the year before because he had a foot or ankle or something like that. I think he missed like 4 games the year before.
Wasn't it? Oh no, the foot. Yeah.
Foot, right? So he had a foot. And so let's give him 24 and plus let's throw in 4 games this year, right? Let's give him 28 games. Now that 28 games, you're telling me how many are games where you really felt confident that Darnold was the guy?
Well, I think you felt kind of confident with him when he went 7-2 after his, I believe was that last year? He went 7-2 to end the season. I think you felt a little bit more confident about him.
Yeah, I felt less shaky. Let's put it that way. So I felt less shaky, and I would say this to the point where you guys were talking about let's re-sign him. Right before the season started, let's re-sign Darnold.
Not you guys.
No. Okay, let's name them. So it was Kyle and it was Brandon. Let's re-sign him, right?
Yeah.
And let's put some money on it. Let's re-sign him. Oh, it's great. And I was like, heck no. I'm not gonna re-sign this guy.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
I'm not. So I'll own it. I don't care, Kerry. I don't know what your stance was. Mine was like, heck no. I'm not gonna re-sign this guy at this point. I don't feel like I know what I have yet. So let's let him go through this season. Let's see where he's at and blah, blah, blah. And if he proves that he's that guy, then sure. At the end of the season, why not re-up with the guy? But I wasn't ready to pull the checkbook out. Heck no. So
in defense of myself on that,
in defense of
myself on that, I am making that statement after he goes 7-2 to finish the year, not after he doesn't look good this year.
Well, of course.
That was year 2. That was year 2. That was 2019.
And that's what we were saying.
Where he ended up with 3,000 yards, 62% passer completion percentage, and he finished with 13 games.
How many touchdowns?
How many touchdowns did he finish with versus picks?
Yeah, touchdowns.
19 touchdowns, 13 picks.
Correct.
All right, so this is where my evaluation at this point
And that was Gase's first year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is where my evaluation personally at this time gets a little rocky, because we look at this and we say to ourselves, okay, you know, there's two different offensive coordinators, 2 different years. Not any weapons whatsoever in either year. So he had crap for
No, I'm not gonna own that, Kyle, because you had Robbie Anderson both years, who is now number 5 in the league in receiving yards. So
But
he had a weapon,
but the issue is how was Robbie used? How was Robbie used? He's not used the same way that he's used now.
He was used being a outside threat who was pushing the safeties and stuff like that. So he was
That's not how he's being used right now. That's not how he's being used right now.
But
he was the number 1 receiver. He was the number 1 receiver on the Jets. The Jets didn't have Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel, or any of the other weapons that the Carolina Panthers have.
True.
It's not apples to apples.
It's not.
All I'm saying, I didn't say it was apples to apples, but you're saying that he had absolutely no weapons. We talk as if there was no, like, he's throwing against air, right? Like he's throwing to air. He's throwing the paper mache. He's throwing to professional people. He's throwing to Robbie Anderson, who was we thought was trash.
You're oversimplifying it.
I don't think we are.
Robbie Anderson was trash.
We said
nobody thought Robbie Anderson was trash.
No,
you said he has no weapons. If Robbie Anderson was on this podcast right now, and you said that Sam Darnold had no weapons in the prior 2 years, you don't think you would take exception to that? Answer that question.
I'm talking about the. Listen, Robbie Anderson's going to take exception to everything that I say, whether it's partying too hard in Miami or anything. True. You know what? That's fine. I mean, I've said a lot of things that Robbie Anderson can take exception to. I take exception to his tweets, but anyway, the fact of the matter is that whether you consider Robbie Anderson a weapon or not, they were not full of weapons. They did not have a good offensive line.
I agree.
So I don't think it's an apples to apples thing. However, I would say this, that if you're going to do a conservative evaluation of Sam Darnold with the body of work that exists, all right? Because we would love to have more to look at. Brian, you say it all the time. I'd love to be able to evaluate this kid more. But we have what we have. We might get 3 or 4 more games out of him this year. But look at his ceiling. What's his best game that he ever played and his worst game that he ever played? And somewhere in the middle is what you're going to get consistently. And somewhere in the middle is not really a place that I think that we move forward with. This is not a guy that has gone out and thrown 4 touchdowns in a game 5 times. Pat Mahomes does that every week.
Yeah, but
Dak Prescott, who I don't think is a top 5 quarterback in the league, has thrown for 5 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns in games.
I just want to chime in. I haven't spoken in a little bit. Let me say something here real quick. So basically, I look at Gase as the quarterback ruiner. You know what I'm saying? So when he started, he got his first head coaching gig in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins. Okay, where was Tannehill? He was terrible. Okay, he wasn't a good quarterback. Okay, he goes somewhere else. He's a much, much better quarterback. Look at when Jay Cutler was brought in to help out. Terrible, not good, And then now he's with Sam Darnold. Terrible, not good. He is ruining quarterbacks. And I think that he is the biggest detriment. I don't look at Sam Darnold as, just someone who can't perform or this and that. I think that he has regressed. And I think he's starting to lose confidence as a result of being here on the Jets with Gase really, calling terrible plays and not coaching him up and just being like this weird-looking figure on the sidelines who doesn't even talk to his quarterback. I mean,
he is weird-looking on the sidelines. He is.
What'd you say?
He is very weird-looking on the sidelines.
Weird-looking on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Doesn't coach.
I've heard you use Tannehill, and this is actually the first time I heard you bring up Jay Cutler. Who was brought in because Tannehill got hurt like 2 days before the season started.
For the rest,
and was already retired and wasn't really anybody's favorite quarterback when he was in his prime.
Still made a couple Pro Bowls in Denver, or at least one Pro Bowl in Denver, and he had a talented arm. I get that.
You know what? I think that Tannehill is greatly in an advantageous situation with the run game that he has and the defense that he has. I think Tannehill is a Trent Dilfer. No. I don't think that Tannehill is this exceptional quarterback that is good now because Adam Gase was so bad before. I don't buy that argument. I understand the argument you're making, but I don't buy it.
And you know what? And then I just 100% disagree with you. I think I'm right and you're wrong.
Let me ask you this.
I'm right too.
Let me ask you this. The Jets have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 6 games left. Right? If out of those 6 games, Darnold plays 6, for me to feel like I need to move on from him, I would need to see him play the way I would need to feel like he didn't play well in the last 6 games, right? I need to see consistency. So in the last 6 games, you need to have a 95 passer rating, anything between 85 and 95 passer rating, making good decisions with the ball, throwing it away when necessary, throwing it down the field, having opportunities to throw it down the field, and being able to run the offense. With 6 games left, I feel like that is enough of a body of work for me to make a decision of whether or not you move on from him or you trade that number 1 pick if we have it.
Well, what about this? I mean, if he is the 33rd best quarterback in the league right now, pay him like the 33rd best quarterback in the league on that extension or that option. I mean, Brian is probably the most locked into the salary cap stuff.
So the option is based on what your option amount is based on what your ranking is as a quarterback at your position.
No, not at all.
I'm
saying like if you and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. If you exercise the 5th-year option in the 3rd year off season, you're locking yourself into something that's prorated similar to a franchise tag where it has a certain amount. Like I think you said it was 26 mil a year or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's already due to the CBA and stuff like that, it's already locked and loaded what that number is based on where he was drafted, the slot he was drafted in and stuff like that. And I think the position that he plays too.
What's the lowest salary of a starting quarterback in the league?
So Kyle, you're saying you want to potentially re-sign him to a contract?
I'm saying that I think the best possible scenario for us with assets is to have a starting quarterback if we draft a guy that we are having compete with him. And whether that guy is an old Joe Flacco or it's a Joe Flacco's out of here and it's a manageable salary for Sam Darnold based on our end evaluation, how we evaluated at the end. That's the way you possibly go. But I don't see overpaying a guy that you don't have confidence in. So if you're not going to overpay a guy that you don't have confidence in, then the guy's got to be out of here. You can't move forward. So I know that Brandon's shaking his head at me, but what I'm saying is the only way that you re-sign him is if the price is so good for you, value-wise, that you're willing to evaluate a little bit more before you let go on it.
So,
I don't know if we have the ability to do that.
I'm shaking my head because when it comes to this situation here with Darnold and let's say Trevor, we don't win any games, we get Trevor. Sam either has to go if we get Trevor, or if we don't get Trevor, he's got to, stay and then compete with someone else that we bring in a la free agency or another quarterback that we may potentially draft.
So you're saying you keep Darnold if you don't get Trevor, and you get rid of him if you do?
No. I meant like Trevor is such a high commodity that if we get him, we got to get rid of Darnold because it's going to mess up the chemistry of the team. I think
I'm gonna make a hot take right now.
Go ahead.
Trevor Lawrence will never play a single football game for the New York Jets, whether we have the number 1 pick or not.
False. He's
blasphemer. Blasphemer. What are you talking about, man?
Yep.
Sorry.
Repeat that. I was reading about his 5th-year option. Repeat that.
Trevor Lawrence will never play a game for the New York Jets, whether we have the first pick in the draft or not.
Why would you say that?
Yeah,
because I don't think he'll come play for the Jets.
He's going to come play for the Jets. You want to know why? It's this whole COVID thing. Everything is just up in the air, unpredictable. Come and make your money.
Are you doing this?
You don't get that many chances in life to become a multi-millionaire and make generational money. So no, please get out of here. His parents, I'm sure, taught him well. Trevor, get yourself out there with that Jamaican name of yours. Get yourself out there and make your money.
Trevor, come this way.
Look,
this way.
they were saying that at a point they were saying the same thing about Burrow and going to Cincinnati. Because at that point, what did Cincinnati win? Huh?
Well, they still were saying it. Like he
still were saying it.
Well, he was coming out though, Kerry. The difference is at that point in time it was during the draft process, and he had already said that I'm coming out. So there was no question about him coming back to school, which Trevor had more options. And I think Joe Burrow, I don't know if he had any eligibility left because he's transferred.
No, he doesn't have any eligibility.
Right. So he had to come out, or he had to sit on the sidelines.
Or he could force a trade like Eli.
If I'm wrong, all of your dreams come true. If I'm right,
not necessarily. Not necessarily.
My dreams, Kyle. My dreams revolve around Darnold, a light turning on, and him being Trevor Lawrence, and then we trade the pick and get everything we want. That's my dream scenario.
Look at my face.
I'm sure.
What is this guy talking about?
I had a dream.
What is this guy talking about?
I had a dream.
I had a dream.
Right.
And we picked Jamal Adams.
Oh boy. Yeah, I know.
And we see how that worked out for everybody.
All right, let's get back to football for a second. Let's get back to football for a second.
I
agree.
Let's talk about the fifth. Let's talk about the 5th option first. Because apparently what's going on is his salary cap number, his 5th option number is based on performance.
What are you talking about?
His 5th-year option number is, in terms of how high it goes or how low it goes, is based on his performance.
So the point I was making is accurate?
It's incentive based.
What are you talking about?
I'm just.
So are you reading straight from the on Google?
I'm reading from the Jets Wire.
Okay, so it says based on performance, and so what are the so
if he does well,
what does doing well mean though? I don't understand what that means.
Again, it's important. It's incentive based. So percentage of completion, amount of completions, games played, blah blah blah. Right. So my point is that if he does well, then you're gonna want to pay him anyway.
So here's my point. I agree with Kyle in the regard of, and I think I had mentioned this previously, and Brandon kind of shot it down like he is now, is you keep Darnold until you get a trade partner that you want, right? So if you get the 2nd rounder that you want, or 5th rounder, whatever value that you're looking for Sam Darnold, you trade him when you get that value. If you don't, you keep him on the roster. I don't give him the 5th-year option though. At this point,
I think you have to exercise.
No. You still have year 4. You still have year 4. So you don't. That doesn't mean that I have to keep him on for year 5. I keep him for year 4. I continue to evaluate. Mr. Trubisky is in this right now. He's in year 4 right now.
But doesn't year 3 count as year 3 over again with COVID?
No.
Like C.J. Mosley's contract, we didn't lose a year on it.
That's because he sat out.
He opted out.
Only because he opted out.
Exactly. That's because he opted out. That's the only reason why he gets we get an extra year is because we didn't have him this year. But
so Brian, you're saying under your scenario, you would keep Darnold and draft Trevor?
I would keep Darnold. I would draft Trevor. I'd let them fight it out for the position. If Darnold wins, great. You know what I mean? We sign him. Listen, this is what I'm saying. Listen, I'm saying 2 quarterbacks, 2 young, good quarterbacks is better than none. So you go out there. If Sam Darnold, great. He plays a year, right? You decide at that point in time, just like Alex Smith, and you had Pat Mahomes, who Pat sat a year, right? So if Sam Darnold goes out there and he plays well.
But Pat Mahomes wasn't the number 1 pick.
So it doesn't. To me, it doesn't really matter. You have him under contract, so it's not like the dude can decide he doesn't want to play.
Let me just interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
I was saying that I didn't disagree with you because you started your dialogue differently. But yes, I did disagree with you, and I do now. I just want to let the fans.
You're gonna have both of them on your roster
if you don't get the trade that you're looking for. Right?
Oh,
I'm not going to trade him.
You're going to get what you're looking for.
I mean, how do you know that? I don't know that.
When you're saying trade Trevor or trade Darnold?
Darnold, bro. You know who I'm talking about trading, bro. You know who I'm talking about trading.
You ain't gonna get what you.
That's what I'm saying. So listen, you let Flacco walk. You still need a backup quarterback at the end of the day, right? And then
that's insane.
If it ends up being that Sam Darnold's a starter, great. Then you also have the ability to trade Trevor the year after if you want to, but that's not going to happen because I think he's a better quarterback. So let's talk about reality.
Let me remind you guys of the situation that Dabo Swinney had. Dabo Swinney had Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Bryant, and Kelly Bryant had just gone to the national championship. And he has Trevor Lawrence coming in, and within 4 games of his freshman year, he's starting.
Yep.
And you know what he tells Kelly Bryant? Thank you for your service.
Deuces.
I'll give you your release to go and find another place to play. And he winds up at Missouri. What happens to Jalen Hurts when Tua comes in?
Yep.
That those types of situations, both of the examples I just gave worked out really well for the team that had the 2 guys.
Arizona Cardinals, by the way.
Arizona Cardinals is another good example.
Yeah, but he wasn't playing well. Their starting quarterback wasn't.
And ours is playing well
right now.
And ours is playing well.
What I'm saying is that he's not even in the league right now.
Okay, I mean, so we don't listen. Darnold, we don't know if Darnold's going to be in the league. We don't know if Darnold's going to be in the league.
Quarterbacks for draft picks.
What is that?
It's apples and oranges. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear.
And if you're going to bring in Dabo Swinney with Trevor Lawrence, then I say, all right, let's go do
it. If you bring in Dabo Swinney as the head coach, I take back everything that I said.
So what are you saying, Brandon? Because I think you got lost in the sauce there.
Yeah. I was just saying that, like, I feel like that was comparing, apples to oranges as far as the whole college, bringing in Kelly and getting rid of Kelly and letting him go. And Trevor Lawrence starting and basically producing what he's produced. But like on the NFL level, when you're doing that, you're trying to get your draft equity. You're trying to get, trade this and this and that. So it's not really comparable, So
no, Arizona is though. Arizona is, and that's the perfect example of what it is right now, right? Because you already had a quarterback that you picked in the first round. Actually, there were less years during that period of time because Sam Darnold and I forgot his name already, man. He's old.
Josh Rosen.
Yeah, he's got his back packed and he just keeps going from place to place. But Josh Rosen was a first round pick, and then first round pick, not the number 1 pick, but first round pick.
I think he was number 10.
Yeah, and then so you have your man coming in first pick in the draft. You pick a new quarterback and you don't look back.
Who by the way, Brian wanted. I want to point out. Okay.
What? Well, Josh Rosen?
He didn't want him over Sam Darnold.
No. I wanted somebody else that's not really. I wanted Baker. I wanted Baker Mayfield. So let's be clear. Let's be clear. I wanted Baker Mayfield. And I didn't want Sam Darnold. I didn't want Sam Darnold.
I did. Sure. Under that scenario, that Cliff Kingsbury wanted
Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So under that scenario, under that scenario, if you bring in a head coach
Come on,
and
Carrie.
they want Trevor Lawrence,
Come on, Carrie.
and they want Trevor Lawrence,
so you're gonna tell me that the coach you're gonna bring in is gonna be like, you know what? We have the number 1 pick. We're gonna pass on Trevor Lawrence. We're gonna take Sam Darnold.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm not telling you what he's gonna say.
Okay.
What I'm telling you is that if he says I want Trevor Lawrence, then you got to say I'm taking Trevor Lawrence. You got to do what that head coach wants you to do.
And here's another thing with Josh Rosen. They had him for a full season. They understood, one, that he just wasn't very good and they made the wrong pick. So they evaluated him. 2, he basically has an attitude like Jay Cutler, which is like a sourpuss attitude, which really prompted them to really get rid of him. And then you bring in Kingsbury, and he's already coached Kyler Murray. So it's like, yeah, that's my guy. He's great. Let's bring him in. And now we're seeing it. So they had a more thorough evaluation. And also
more thorough than whom?
Than our quarterback, who has been in and out, like sometimes good, sometimes not good, sometimes good, sometimes not good. And then when you couple that with having terrible coaching and no weapons whatsoever.
So you're saying he's been in the building for 2.5 years, and we couldn't evaluate him at all during that period of time. Is what you're saying?
I didn't say it all, but it's incomplete.
Well, you're saying,
and I think that Arizona had
a complete one,
better weapons than the New York Jets had.
So let me clarify what Brandon's saying too. With Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, he didn't coach him in college,
right?
I think Kyler Murray went from Texas A&M to Oklahoma. He coached Mahomes in college,
right?
Because Mahomes is at Texas Tech. But the offense that both Lincoln Riley and Cliff Kingsbury run is exactly the same in form and concept. So he was bringing in a guy to do his thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to strengthen.
Thanks for the clarification, Coach. You know what I mean? That's why we give you the coach name.
Yeah. I also didn't want to have wrong information out there.
Thanks, Brandon puts out wrong information all the time. I know.
Nah, I doubt it. You know everything. I'm always correcting you. Anyway, hey, fellas, let's move on, all right? Because we're back and forth on this. Hey, let's talk about a little NBA. Let's talk about the draft that just happened this week. Let's talk about our beloved, for the most part, except for by Kyle, New York Knicks. We're going to try and get Kyle back onto the New York Knicks ship if we can. But
that's be different.
Get somebody to sell the team.
Yeah, that's true. So the NBA starts. We now know this past week they put it out there that the NBA, we're going to see some NBA basketball starting December 22nd. And also, instead of an 82-game season, close enough, we're going to have a 72-game season during this whole pandemic thing. So I'm going to be like this. All right, that's good. I'll take it, right? What are you guys hoping to see? We just had the draft. We had the 8th pick in the draft. I know that we need weapons all around. We were hoping for someone impactful, and that impactful player at the 8th position, we got Obi Toppin, power forward out of Dayton and a Brooklyn native. And I saw him tearing up when he was drafted. He loved it.
Sure.
He loved the Knicks.
Sure.
I know that we need a point guard, somebody who's like a field general out there that a lot of people wanted. But what do you guys feel about the pick, and what do you guys feel about watching some NBA basketball to kind of bring us through this pandemic?
Well, I mean, I'll start it off. I love it. I love it. I haven't seen the Knicks for a long time because they weren't invited to the bubble, rightfully so. Their record did not deserve or warrant that. But I'd like to see some basketball again where my team is actually playing. Now, listen, I didn't expect Obi Toppin to be there at 8. And based on how things played out, I don't think the Knicks did either. They made a trade with their late first-round pick and their second-round pick in order to move up a couple of spots because they tried to trade with Cleveland at number 5 in order to get Obi Toppin. Fortunately, they stayed at 8, and he still fell to them, which was great. And they were actually able to flip that number 23 pick into 2 other picks later on in the draft, which were actually better than the original picks that they had. Long story short, they got a guy who is a high flyer, Amari Stoudemire, with a jump shot, I would say, right? Because I don't think Amari had one when he first came out, and he never really developed until maybe later on in his career a 3-point shot. but the guy shot like 40% from three, which was great. So I think he can score on all three levels. Defense obviously is a drawback or a negative right now, but when you got Tibbs in there forcing him to play defense, I think that's part of his game that'll definitely come around. One of the things that people were talking about was Tyrese Halliburton being there and the fact that we needed a point guard, and we didn't draft a point guard at number 8, right? I liked Halliburton. I liked him a lot. Two-way player. Not a true point guard, more of a combo guard, but somebody that can, dish it out, play defense. What was he, a 50, 40, 90 guy, right? 50% from the field, 40% from three and 90% from the line, which is phenomenal, right? Those are numbers that you wanted to get. I just think that I didn't believe Obi Toppin was going to be there at 8. And evidently, like I said, the Knicks didn't either. My only thing, and I think they went awry, was the second first-round pick and the fact that they took Emmanuel quickly. When you had Malachi Flynn, a traditional point guard, that was there, two-way player, defensive player of the year in his conference, just a phenomenal player at that point. You could bring him in as a developmental point guard. I believe he could be somebody that could be a starter for you, maybe even day one at the end of the day. So that I'm just disappointed with that piece of the puzzle as far as the draft was concerned.
So Brian, do you think that we have too many power forwards right now?
I think we do. We need to trade a couple.
Yeah, because Obi, he's 6'9", 220 pounds. He's going to be that muscle down low. I like our center that we have. He's pretty athletic and he's grown. And then
we got Julius Randle too. I think Julius can come off the bench. So I think that's somebody that can come off the bench right now because he just doesn't shoot threes as well.
Potential a 2010 guy, Julius Randle.
Yeah, I think he's good coming off the bench. I think that he shouldn't have started, and that's where we went awry last year. Tired of just dumping the ball down to him or seeing him turn the ball over coming down the floor. It's just that's not the position that he should be in. And I think, again, with a better coach, he'll put him in a better position to be able to succeed at the end of the day. But I think Obi Toppin should start because, again, he can shoot the three. He can handle. He's a playmaker from that perspective, and he shoots better than Randle does overall. So I think he should start, but Randle could come off the bench. Those are the only two power forwards that we should have on the roster.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you have a front court of Barrett.
No, Barrett's at the 2 for me, not the 3.
You're going to have Barrett at 2. So who's going to be the small forward with Mitchell Robinson and Toppin?
That's the question that they were trying to draft for. I don't think the starting small forward's on the roster right now. I think that you have to try to get a free agent who's a small forward who's defensive minded right now. And I forgot the guy's name that they were thinking about maybe bringing in.
Right now, it could be Alec Burks, who they signed.
It's not Kevin
Knox. It could be Kevin Knox.
He hasn't shown the ability to be a starter yet, but
Well, again, it could be that they're gonna that again we have a new coach, so it could be that he feels like that'll be a position that's up for grabs. I mean, your point guard
Gibson play for Tibbs.
Say again?
Didn't Taj Gibson play for Tibbs on the Bulls?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's not there anymore though.
Oh, they
released him, but they might re-sign him. He might be somebody that they re-sign.
Looking at the roster, and he's on the roster right now.
No, they didn't sign him yet. He had an option that they didn't pick up. Mm-hmm. So he's probably going to end up on the roster for a vet minimum. So he's kind of hanging out there. But again, that's a power forward center guy.
And that's the same with Portis. They let Portis go as well. They didn't pick up his option. They signed Austin Rivers.
I'm checking out our feed here, and
they re-signed
Al Knight, Al Sobel, and he's saying that we just signed Austin Rivers.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I was gonna say it's a pending transaction.
It's a pending transaction, but they re-signed it. They signed him, and they also re-signed Elfrid Payton.
Okay.
Yeah, I think where the Knicks are right now from a free agent perspective is exactly where the Jets are going to be next year, right? I mean, just not having the ability to bring in Gordon Hayward, sorry. Now, we didn't offer him as much money as he got in Charlotte. What was it? 4-year,
And nor
120
should
million.
we have.
Exactly.
Nor should we have.
So that was a smart non-move. But
The move that I wanted to make was Van Fleet.
And he didn't want to leave Toronto. We're not an attractive destination. We're just not an attractive destination right now. We're just not winning, and we're going to have the same struggle as a Jets organization as the Knicks are having right now. Just bringing in free agents. It's one thing to draft because they have nowhere to go. That's your choice. But free agents, they have a choice, and we weren't. So at the end of the day, if Charlotte wasn't Gordon Hayward's number one choice either. It was Indiana. He wanted to go back home. So where the Knicks were like what 3-4, Atlanta. Look with them. They're signing a lot of big names and trying to turn it around in in a short period of time. But they have Trae Young, somebody who was an all-star last year.
What's up with Nerlens Noel? Is that
they signed him too? They signed him too.
He's a center.
He'll be a backup. He'll back up Mitch.
How many years does he have in the league now?
No,
5 or 6. 5 or 6, I think.
All with the Pelicans, right?
No, he was traded.
He was with Washington, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in Washington too. Yeah.
So Washington, he had an offer sheet with Dallas because they traded him to Dallas. He had an offer sheet like 4 years, $70 million. He turned down. Worst decision of his life.
Right, that was poor decision.
Oh my God, never gonna see a contract like that ever again. So
nope.
Yeah, that was disappointing. But listen, I think you don't want to make rash decisions. We don't want to tie up too much money into players that are average. We have to overpay for free agents. So I think although we're gonna see the pain next year, in that we're not going to really compete for that 8 spot, I don't think yet, unless Obi Toppin turns out to be head and shoulders above what we think he is at this juncture, and RJ Barrett really takes that next step. I think we're still going to be 10, 11, and we're going to be in the lottery again next year. But I just don't want to chase the stars. And I'm glad that we didn't overpay for people this year. But at the same time, you want to sign players that are going to help your culture in the short term as well. And that's kind of where, we're kind of in the middle of that right now.
Yeah. The highest priced person on the Knicks right now is Julius Randle at $19 million a year.
Right.
Or 20 when you round it up. So, I mean, there's so many people with multiple $20 million players on there.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant if you can't get space. Cap space is irrelevant if you can't get players that want to sign. So the issue is, if you're looking going forward, what free agents are available, then Antetokounmpo, Giannis is not coming here.
No.
I don't care how much money you throw at him. So you give him a max contract, he's not coming here. There's nobody else here anyway. And he's not that kind of dude. He's expressly said that I want to stay with Milwaukee. So, who else is out there that's going to be available? The issue is, like you said, you got to build a culture that attracts free agents, that attracts the free agents you want. And right now, the Knicks aren't that culture.
Al wants to know if we want to do a little John Wall in the trade or something like that.
John Wall is ready. He doesn't want to be in. Once he found out that they were shopping him in that Westbrook deal, he was like, I'm done. So, you got to take advantage of situations that you can take advantage of. And if you have a player there that is ready to prove that he is the best point guard in the league, then that might be one of the risks that you have to take as an organization that the Knicks are looked at right now.
My problem with that is, if he wasn't coming off an injury and I saw him over the last year, then I'm with you, but he tore his Achilles. And
but
so
I recognize that, but those are the risks that you're going to have to take in terms of being the type of organization and how the Knicks are viewed around the league right now.
No, you don't have to take that risk. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you don't have to sign him. You don't have to sign Russell Westbrook. You don't have to sign any of those people.
No. But I'm saying if you're gonna get that caliber of player,
right,
then that's the kind of risk that you're gonna have to take.
Well, I agree with you, Kerry. I mean, it's definitely a dice roll. It's not like the Knicks are some great organization right now. We're gonna have to take risks. We're gonna have to take risks to kind of up things a little bit. And I'm open to seeing what John Wall can do, even though he's coming back after an Achilles injury. And you know what? People have come back successfully after Achilles injuries. So hopefully his treatment is good, and hopefully the Knicks will entertain that idea. And
let's hope Clay comes back that way.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to wish Clay well too. I mean, he's got a whole year. He's going to be out 2 years. One is the ACL. The next one, he just ruptured his Achilles.
Yep.
And I wish nothing but the best for him. I hope he comes back and plays ball next year. But I'm looking at my Knicks first, and hopefully we're kind of taking slow steps. Well, let's go a little bit faster than slow, but steps in the right direction and rebuilding the culture, as Brian put it, of this franchise. So, I'm dying to sit down with my brothers here, you know what I'm saying, with y'all three, and pop up at a Knicks game and eat popcorn and talk a lot of garbage while watching the Knicks win.
So salty. That Madison Square Garden popcorn, it's the saltiest popcorn ever.
You got to add the butter to it.
The butter. Because
they want you to buy the beer or the Coke with it. So
yeah, I'm going with the Coke Zero. You got to flush that out.
Thanks.
Yeah. But listen, let's keep moving. B, let's cue up that Tweak Me, Peek Me music. Let's get that going.
Yeah.
Got a couple things on my mind I want to, tweak out, peek out. Yeah, all right, folks, everybody. This is still the BKBK podcast, and you just heard the music. You know what segment we're in. This is Tweak Me, Peek Me. The tweak is basically what's getting under your skin and what's getting on your daggone nerves. And the peak, it's like those little flowers that are just growing and making you happy and things that just make you happy, without the music. I just did that just for my own amusement. But I used to be funny, but I'm getting that dad corny vibe now.
Yeah,
whatever.
used to be. Gotcha.
Yeah. I've got dad jokes on lock now. You know what I'm saying?
Formerly known as.
Yeah. So fellas, we're in the Tweak Me, Peek Me segment. We just watched the Jets lose once again for the 10th time this season.
Yeah.
Last game we set the Jets record. Now we're just compounding the issue by adding on to this loser type of season that we're having. So who wants to go first with the Tweak Me, Peek Me segment? Fine, I'll go. Took too long. Here we go.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Dang.
Oh, this is a live show, man. We can't have too much silence. But listen.
Let go.
Go with what piques me first, okay? What piques me, I liked what I saw out of Denzel Mims today. He only had 3 catches, but he still had 71 yards. But you know what? They didn't really go to him, I think, until the second half. So imagine if they went to him in the first half. We only threw the ball 5 times. We completed 2 or maybe 3 of them before the half. And it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And if he had a full body of opportunities to work with, Denzel Mims would have had, I'm going to use the word probably again, B. He probably would have gone over 100 and who knows, But I like what I'm seeing out of him. I like the way he's running his routes. I like the way he stands out to me. Like he's not just a receiver that's fast. To me, that's Perriman. There's a gracefulness about him. He's big, he's strong, but he also runs like a horse while also running like a gazelle. I think he's got it all, and he just needs to continue to refine his skill. And with another coach that'll come in next season, hopefully he'll get more opportunity to really just flourish. So I like Denzel Mims. I love it that we got him. What is it, the 59th pick, I believe? But regardless, it was in the second round, and I just forget which pick number it was.
It was 59.
Yeah, it was okay. Great. The 59th pick in the second round when he was rated as a first rounder. So great job by Douglas right there as a GM. And what tweaks me is I got a couple little tweaks here and there. Mekhi Becton, I love you to death. I really do. But it feels like, I don't know, like sometimes I'm watching you and it's like I'm not watching you because you're off on the sideline. Like it feels like you get a little dinged up each and every game and I'm not seeing your full effectiveness. So you've missed a few games and then you've gone out in the middle of some games and then you come back in and then you're out again and then you're in. Like I want to see a fuller body of work because I see the potential in you. I can see that you can be a great player, but the only way for you to be a great player is to play. I'm not questioning your toughness, but I'm just like saying, like, I wonder what's happening. You know, you're 265 pounds. I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
365, 365, not 265.
Yes, I'm sorry, 365. Maybe come down to 345. Maybe something a little bit more manageable. I'm not sure, but I got a few questions in there. But my ultimate tweak is, of course, Adam Gase. All right. Did you notice, guys, that he started calling plays? He kind of took that away from the offensive coordinator and started calling plays again. And did we win? Did we have a chance of winning? No.
Nah.
I saw some terrible play calls. You know, for instance, it's 2 minutes left. We have the ball. It's first and 10 with only 2 minutes left. We got to run the 2-minute drill. First play of the game. First play of that series. He runs the typical Frank Gore run, off tackle run. And I think he only gains like 3 yards. So it's like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And it just sets him up for predictable play calling that the defense can defend right from there. Gase is a terrible coach, okay? He basically this season, he's destroying everything that he's touching. The offensive coordinator calls a better game than Gase. He takes it away from him. He's calling a terrible game, and he needs to go, all right? But he needs to go at the end of the season so that the other potential free agents can look at the Jets as being borderline attractive again, and Douglas bringing other free agents, and we just rid ourselves of Adam Gase. It needs to happen. Adam Gase.
Sort of like UB, borderline attractive?
Goodbye. Sort of like what?
Sort of like UB, borderline attractive?
Borderline attractive? Why are you looking at me?
I think that you continuing to be tweaked by Adam Gase is
tweaking me.
I think that
oh my gosh.
I think that will be put out of its misery at a certain point really soon.
All right, it's like your girlfriend, your ex-girlfriend who was seeing the good-looking guy, and you keep on being mad at that. Like, she ain't with you, dude. Let it go.
Well, I definitely think that you're gonna have something else to put all that anger towards, because it ain't gonna be Gase anymore.
No, nope.
That's out of here. With every loss that we have, he's closer to gone. So
I know, like, while you're watching the game, aren't you getting mad at him?
Not anymore.
No, it's a numbness. It's a numbness.
I'm still daring him to say something about my mother.
All right, who's next, man? Who's going next?
Right.
You were getting pretty mad about Greg Williams during the game too. So
right.
I don't want him here either. I don't want him here either. Greg Williams can go. Everybody can go. Everybody.
Except for Q. Q can't go.
And no. And you know what? Friggin' Frickin' can go too.
Oh yeah. Frickin' could definitely go. He could have stayed.
I like Sergio Valente better anyway. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna step up and go. So I'm gonna say the tweak. I'm gonna go tweak first, and I'm severely tweaked by roughing the passer penalties. Like I can't stand getting some sort of like energy up for defensive play and then have people call for a roughing the passer and then just take it all away. And I think the worst example of it today was Nathan Shepard when Herbert clearly slides.
Yeah.
He like does this weird, like, I'm going to hit you. And then I'm like, oh no, I didn't. It's just extremely frustrating to see your and it was frustrating for the Chargers fans too, because they had some things there too. I don't think that the one going at Flacco's knees was a bad call. You can't do that.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that was the one that I would argue with the least. But some of those, like there was one on Jordan Jenkins that was just completely ridiculous. There was no roughing whatsoever. It was just a really good play. So I'm super tweaked by that, and I mean our tweak me segment is pretty much the rest of the show. So I'm not going to go into it. But I am piqued by Perriman, and I think that Perriman was a really good signing. I think that it goes to show that when he's healthy and on the field, as his targets increase, his production increases, and he has 3 touchdowns in 2 games, and that's with not a good offense, as far as the what we're putting out on the field. So him and Mims with Crowder can be a good receiving group. Herndon, I'm done with. I don't. He had that touchdown and he had a good catch. But the reality of it is that we've invested in him, and he maybe he'll be like Eric Ebron and wind up being really good 6 years
somewhere else.
But I don't have 6 years to wait on that. So that can go. But I do like Perriman, and I think when we get our situation figured out at quarterback, and when we get the other linemen put in place, and like you say the tweaks about Becton, I understand that. But we were talking about, of all those linemen, we knew that some would work out and some wouldn't. And it looks like the 2 Georgia guys are on bust verge right now, with the Giants benching the guy. Which one was that? The first
Andrew
guy.
Thomas.
Andrew Thomas. So they benched him?
They benched him. And then Pert is on COVID list now. So the guy they put him in, who was also a rookie from UConn,
right?
After they benched him, he is now on COVID. I mean, the only thing that makes me feel a little bit better is the Giants are a little bit more of a mess than we are right now.
I don't want that.
We're losing, but they're having fist fights in the locker room. They're not in good shape either.
Who fought?
The Joe Judge fought the O-line coach. Yeah. And then the O-line coach got fired the next day. And my coach from college, Dave DeGuglielmo, he got hired as the new Giants O-line coach. He's been around. He's the Jets O-line coach with Todd Bowles at one point.
Brian really wanted Andrew Thomas, the tackle out of Georgia. So just calling you out. I wanted Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, I mean, going into the draft, I did, and I think tackles, like some other positions in the NFL, take a little time in order to season. There were a lot of players that I liked. CeeDee Lamb, I liked him too, and Tristan Wirfs, when we were trying to draft Becton, was somebody that I wanted instead of Becton. So Andrew Thomas was my number 1 tackle. Obviously, I can't stick to that right now because of how he's playing per se. But again, I think his jury is still out, just based on tackles just take a little bit of time in order to get there. But
I think it's safe to say that when the picks that we want don't work out and we didn't pick them, that's good. The problem is when we wanted a guy and we didn't pick him.
Oh, sure.
He turned out to be the best quarterback in the NFL.
We stand on the table at that point in time, if that's what.
Yeah. And you know what the best part is? The best part is when you want a guy and we get him, or like when you want a guy and you proclaim that, and then he ends up stinking up the joint. It's great for the rest of the 3 to pick on the other person. Because we get that all the time on this show. We're always coming at each other, but that's what makes it so entertaining.
Definitely.
All right, so who's next?
I mean, I'll go next. I mean, and Carrie, unless you want to. Well, I hopped in there, so I'm going to own it. All right, so I'll say what tweaks me.
Yeah.
What tweaks me is the majority of you jive turkeys who can't really properly evaluate Sam Darnold based on the face value of his performance alone. All right. I mean, the kid has been here for 2.5 years. He's had 2 different coaches. He's had 2 different offensive coordinators. All of that, I get. He has had a bunch of NFL players who we say have, no talent. All of these excuses that we put out there. However, the teams that draft these quarterbacks in the first round, they're normally picking high because they weren't good the year before, right? Either a coach or the talent wasn't there or whatever the situation was. Otherwise, they wouldn't have picked, Justin Herbert at 9 or 10 or Joe Burrow at 1 or Tua at 5, wherever they were. I think that's where he picked. Yeah. But we don't make excuses for those guys and how great they've performed. We don't say, man, Justin Herbert's good because, he's got a great offensive line. He's got a great, this, a great that. We don't say all of those excuses as to why they're great. So why are we saying all these excuses as to why Sam Darnold hasn't been as great, right? I think there are opportunities that he's had during this 2.5-year period of time he has not taken full advantage of. I think that if he was better, he could have uplifted some of the people at wide receiver, running back, offensive line, whatever the case may be. That just hasn't happened and hasn't developed to this point. This is why my peak is we're 0-10. And the only reason I want to be 0-10 is because the Jags are 1-9. Right? I want to lose or win one less game than the Jags do because that ensures that we'll have the number 1 pick. And Trevor Lawrence is staring at us. And at that point in time, maybe we'll be a little bit more attractive and not borderline attractive, like somebody mentioned. And we'll, have a new coach in there installed. We'll have, maybe a couple of new weapons in there from free agency. And, and then we'll look, kind of sexy to Trev. You say, hey, come on board here, man. Number 1 pick, enter your name into the draft. We'll take you. And hopefully you'll take this organization to where we need to be, which is not where we are with Sam Darnold.
Take that.
So,
Brian, I have a question for you after Kerry goes.
Sure.
So my peak me is twofold. The fact that we still have 6 games to evaluate our quarterback.
Maybe.
We better have 6 games to evaluate our quarterback to see where we're going to end up going in the draft, whether we're going to trade this pick or we're going to take Trevor Lawrence at 1, because I have no fear of winning a game anymore for the rest of the season. With Miami on our schedule, in New England, in Cleveland, at the Rams, at Seattle, and the Raiders. These are all teams that are vying for a playoff push. So we're going to be able to evaluate him. And my other peak was the fact that we had so many young players playing. I was able to see Bryce Hall play and, get his lumps and also make very good plays. Mm-hmm. Davis, to me, flies around the field. He's always in the lens, whether it's, making a good tackle or, just being around the play.
He's always in the frame.
Always in the frame. What discouraged me was the fact that P. Ryan wasn't on the field more than Gore. And I still don't understand that.
Coach.
Okay, well, again, we know that that's the coach, but again, I still don't understand why that's not happening. And again, seeing Becton on the field for the most part, the draft picks that we have, that's piquing me. What's not piquing me is, what's tweaking me is Conor McGregor. McGovern. Excuse me, Conor McGregor. McGovern, our center. Like, could he be worse? Could he be a worse center? I mean, what's going on with his inability to identify where the pass rush is coming is unacceptable for someone who was supposed to be the number 1 rated center in free agency.
That 1 sack was horrible. Horrible. He wasn't even blocking anybody. He just turned the wrong way.
Right. So again, what you're going to see on my draft board is going to be a center somewhere in the first 2 rounds. And I recognize that we need receivers or playmakers on offense to go with our quarterback, whoever that might be. But that's just unforgivable. The other part of it, which probably tweaks me even more, is the fact that both commentators indicated exactly what I've been saying from the beginning of the game, what I said from the beginning of the game. Why aren't we throwing the ball long? It makes no sense. We're not opening up the offense and giving the receivers the opportunities to make plays. It made absolutely no sense. We didn't throw the ball past 30 yards until we came back after the second half, after the first half, I should say. Yep. That makes no sense. That's not coaching. That's common sense. So those are mine. And what I would also say is these are the cards that we had from the draft. What we wanted, or what I wanted. Oops. Let's throw that out. McFarland and Ankrum. And
who are those people? I've never even heard them mentioned.
Well, McFarland is playing well. Chenault Jr. is playing well.
What about Bradley and Nay? How is he doing?
And Nay, I haven't looked.
He's on Dallas, right? I've heard his name a couple of times.
He's on Dallas. Yeah. I haven't looked though.
I've heard his name a couple of times.
Dallas' defense is terrible. So,
what I would say is that I think I did want Thomas, and I'm glad we ended up with Becton. I didn't think we were going to get Becton. He wasn't going to be available at 11, which is where we were when we initially were doing this draft order.
I admit it. I was scared. I was scared of Becton. I thought he was too raw, and I thought Andrew Thomas was definitely going to be there. Listen, I appreciate my brother for having my back and actually turning his card and say, you know what, Brian was not the only one that wanted Andrew Thomas, as Brandon was trying to throw me under the bus.
Well, again, but that was Becton was already picked.
Regardless, I mean, it kind of was what it was. When we did a mock draft, you had Andrew Thomas. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
I was worried about the Becton boom or bust.
Right.
Who was I? I think all 4 of us were.
Yeah, I was concerned about it. I wanted Becton, but again, I just thought that he was going to be picked. I thought the Giants were going to pick them, or somebody else was going to pick him before us. In fact, I thought we weren't even going to be able. We were going to be picked out of
the tackles. Yeah. We just didn't want to pick the wrong one.
I think the reality of it is that all of them are boom or bust. And so whether you identify somebody as boom or bust or not,
except for Mahomes, right?
No, that's boom. Boom, boom, boom.
That is boom.
Boom, boom.
All right, Brandon, what question did you want to ask me, bro? We had an hour and 18 minutes, man. We trying to put the little ones to bed. What you gonna do?
So for the draft, here was my ranks. I had Wirfs ranked 1, the tackle out of Alabama that went to the Browns is 2. Then I had Andrew Thomas, and then I had Mekhi Becton. I think all of us, there was a question mark regarding Mekhi Becton. But like I said, I love and I have a lot of I think he's going to be great. I just want to see him on the field consistently more. But anyway, Brian, the question I have for you is basically it seems as if you are putting more judgment or negative judgment on to Sam Darnold for his performance as far as him being a quarterback rather than the lack of weapons and the coaching. Is that true?
No. What is true? Listen. Gase, I want gone. So that's ownership, right, and responsibility for him. McCagnon, already out of here. right, for the roster that we have, right? Responsibility, guillotine. Sam Darnold has a piece of that pie. And what I want to speak to sometimes, and I feel like I'm the only one that speak, huh?
My question really is who has the bigger piece of that pie as far as responsibility is concerned?
I would. So you're talking about biggest piece of the pie for where the 2020 New York Jets are?
Gase.
Is that so? The biggest piece is Gase, hands down.
I think it's McCagnon.
I'm talking about the play of our franchise quarterback. Are we leaning the blame more on Darnold, or are we leaning the blame more on Gase and the lack of weapons? Because before you were saying that a quarterback, if you're really good, you're supposed to be uplifting your team, and Darnold isn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Now you can uplift it a little bit or whatever because you have a lack of weapons or whatever, but I just want to see where you're putting more of the blame. Is it more Darnold's fault that he's not good enough to lift the team up, or is it kind of where I'm leaning towards the lack of coaching and the lack of weapons?
I think I brought this up in a prior podcast in that I think Darnold needs things to be perfect in order for him to be good in this league. I do not think that he is somebody that is going to uplift the players that are around him. And I think Gase is a major part of that, but I don't think he is to what Darnold is. The majority of it is Sam Darnold. Gase has a role that he's played in that. Absolutely, Gase has had a role in how he's played, for what Sam Darnold is, and in general. Sam Darnold's out the lineup now because of Sam Darnold, right? Not because of the line, not because of the wide receivers and the talent level there, but because of the decision that he made in that particular play. His shoulder is banged up because of Sam Darnold. I mean,
the shoulder was aggravated. The shoulder was aggravated.
No. The original injury where he got slung to the ground was Sam Darnold. That was when he got slung to the ground. That was the first injury to that shoulder. Right? Am I?
Yeah,
it
was.
Right?
It was. I don't think he was holding the ball that much longer.
He absolutely did. He we said it during the game.
I thought the aggravate. Well, yeah, he probably right.
We said it during the game, and then he ended up again. There was somebody that was streaking across. I think it was Crowder or somebody like that was streaking across, but instead of hitting him, and the commentator said it during the game as well. I don't understand why he did that. So he held the ball, came around, tried to make some sort of play, and then the guy slung him to the ground. Gase has nothing to do with Mano and the fact that he missed 3 games or whatever, and then we ended up going 0-4, 0-5 last year because we didn't have our franchise quarterback there. Gase has nothing to do with that. I mean, and that's, I can't blame Darnold either. It's an illness, but I'm just saying that has nothing to do with Gase.
But the fact that we had to play those 4 games with Luke Falk is that's a McCagnon thing.
That's McCagnon. Absolutely.
McCagnon and Idzig set the table here for a bleak roster over a long period of time before Gase got here and before Darnold got here. The Jets are bad because their last 2 general managers did a really bad job.
Agreed.
They did not draft well. They did not sign well. They thought they valued Christian Hackenberg over
Patrick
quarterbacks.
Mahomes.
20 quarterbacks that were better than him.
Mm-hmm.
And that has led us to where we are now. Now, Gase is not free from blame for current situations and what's going on as far as in-game and culture things, as Brandon says. Like, the culture is the way that the culture is because the head coach that has been here for 2 years. That goes without saying. And then Darnold has a share of his own failings. But the Jets are bad because of bad general managers for a period of close to 7 years.
Yeah, and which, again, goes back to one of the prior podcasts, which is ownership, which, hires the general managers, which puts us in the position that we are and the leadership structure that we have currently in place, which leads to just misfunction or malfunction in the organization as a whole. So, we can go back all the way back to that as the root cause of what we are right now. But if you're just talking about Gase versus Darnold, I mean, Darnold owns where he is right now. Gase is a condiment.
And that's where I disagree, because, I'm looking at people, for instance, Lamar Jackson, last year's MVP. He is not having a great season. I'm looking at his stats right now for today's game. And, they were in contention last year to potentially go to the Super Bowl. And they lost again and they lost today to the Titans. And he he only threw for 186 yards. He had a pick and he had an INT. His rating is 74.8 for today's game. He's not having a season even close to last year's season. It looks like he's kind of regressing. He doesn't have the weapons that he needs, which helps to bring his productivity down. And the coaching on the offensive side, they're not coaching him in
okay.
a way that.
All right, B. No, not to interrupt you, because I did mean to interrupt you. But so the weapons were the same last year that he was MVP. The coaches were the same as his MVP year, right? And we, applauded them all last year, like everything is phenomenal and great. And why can't it be the player?
And the offensive coordinator is up for a head coaching job.
Right. Why is it not the player? Why is it not the player at this point in time? Had a good season last year, was the main reason that they lost in the playoffs, because of the turnovers, was the main reason that they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers because of the turnovers. And you know what? The player just had a bad season. Everything else has been the same. The Hollywood Brown was there last year, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's great." Now Hollywood Brown's there, and we don't have enough.
Well, they don't have enough. They need another, weapon on the outside. Another deep threat. They can't keep throwing.
They let go of that tight end as well.
You know what I'm saying? Well, here's the thing. Here's the difference. This is the NFL, okay? And you can't keep doing the same thing.
And
it's going to be
the same
a lot
result.
easier to run this college, read run option type of offense. The first time you see it with an incredible athlete like Lamar Jackson, but then you keep seeing that these NFL defenders and coaches are going to be able to defend that. So it is the job of the offensive coordinator to make things a little different, to, put the defense back on their heels with different types of plays and play calling. And it's the job of the GM to get better complementary players to be able to spread things out, to just keep people back on their heels. And they haven't done that.
What's the player's job in all of this?
Today?
Huh?
Did you guys watch the Tennessee-Baltimore game today?
I watched parts of the game, yeah.
I watched the whole game, and Lamar Jackson, he dropped a dime.
Yeah, to the tight end.
Mark Andrews for a touchdown. Yeah. I mean, if we're just talking about this game, this was just like a tough divisional game where.
No, I'm not talking about this game. I'm just talking about the type of season that he's having overall. And I'm not saying the dude stinks. I'll take him on my team any day of the week. I'm just saying that, there are reasons outside of just the player that make a player regress. That is my overall point. Jeez. So, of course, you have to take ownership, but there are also outside reasons as well.
Sure. Sure. I mean, but and nothing that you mentioned there you never mentioned the player, right? So it's the coaching, it's the the weapons. It's sort of similar to the conversation that we're having about Sam Darnold. It's all the things that are around the player, but you never mentioned the player. The player threw the interceptions. No, you didn't mention Lamar as one of the reasons as to why they aren't as good this year. You never mentioned that in that whole soliloquy that you just had. You mentioned,
but when I talk about Sam Darnold, I mentioned him through our text and being on camera here.
And then at the end of everything that you're talking about, Sam Darnold, Gase. Gase. I mean, so you let it stand on its own. If you're gonna say that Sam Darnold made this error, made this issue, whatever else, let it stand and breathe by itself versus melding it with Gase. We all understand that he's in the background of all the things that are going wrong with the New York Jets. However, you know what? There's a lot of things that have to do with Sam Darnold.
Listen. I'm not absolving Sam Darnold for some of his mistakes, But to me, there is a hierarchy. And I think that Gase is affecting Sam Darnold more. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there's really, I think that if Darnold were with a different offense, maybe like, I don't know, a Greg Roman or, just someone else. I just threw him out just randomly, that he would be in a better. And then if he had he would. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
We're not going to know the answer to that question until it happens. We could argue about this until the cows come home, but we're not going to know until he's not on this team anymore, or this team is completely restructured to be able to answer that question. But
sure.
I think we've beaten this to death.
Yeah, the jury is still out. We still got 6 games to evaluate.
Yep.
Well, then why is Lamar Jackson playing as well? Why don't you answer that then?
I think that he's not reading the field 100%. I think he's finding poor times in the game to throw interceptions. They ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 300 yards, and lost the game because Lamar Jackson threw 2 bad interceptions, and he took ownership of that. That had nothing to that had nothing to do with Greg Roman or whomever else is calling the plays, or the fact that they had nobody on the outside. It just didn't. And again, the same thing happened. They just got punched in the mouth in the playoffs. They got run over in the playoffs. It just is what it is. Sometimes I think the Tennessee Titans play them extremely well. And it's hard for them to match up properly. And in both games, they just had their number. They had their number. And no matter what Baltimore did, the Titans did one thing more or better. And it just is what it is. But I think when I've seen them lose games down the stretch, when we needed a play from Lamar because he is that former MVP, he didn't make the play. And that's just what it boils down to me. And I'll applaud him when he does well. He did very well last year. Man, that guy is all over the place. I love him. And I still love him this year too. I just think that, he needs to make those plays. And that's the difference between them winning or losing. They're going to go into the playoffs, and they're going to be okay, but they're going to get knocked out because, they don't have.
He can't make the intermediate pass from a accuracy standpoint. He can drop it in baskets, but when he has to make that intermediate pass,
right,
more often than not, he's short arming it. It's just his mechanics, and that's a significant part of what's going on.
He's got to work on it. You know what I mean? That's his thing. You got homework assignments during the summer. He's just got to work on that. And eventually he'll get past whatever he needs to get past in order to win those games. But he's just not there yet. He has the skill set to do it all day. I mean, he's proven that.
All
but
day.
I just, I think he's got homework just like everybody else.
A great run game and a great defense makes a quarterback look really good.
Sure.
And that's the Tennessee Titans model. That was Mark Sanchez with the New York Jets going to back-to-back AFC championships. A good run game and a good defense will make even a flawed quarterback look much better. And if those other two things aren't working as well as they were when that quarterback was having that year, that plays into that too, in my opinion.
If the Jets don't have a good run game, they don't have a good defense, they don't have any weapons, and they don't have good coaching.
And so they didn't have good general managers until this guy.
Exactly. So
Ravens have some good general managers.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Just a really, really quick thing, and then we're going to wrap this up. We're playing the Miami Dolphins on the 29th next week. What are your predictions, fellas?
L.
Oh.
Yeah, Lauren Hill all day. Or Lauren Hill all day. And the score 28-13.
I think the Jets are going to score 24 points and lose 45-24.
Wow. Okay.
I think you're not giving that Miami defense enough credit. They're actually pretty good, and Flores is a good coach, man. He's from Brooklyn too, I think. He's a New Yorker, but
East New York.
yeah. But I have the Jets losing to the Miami Dolphins 29-10. They'll probably score just one TD, you know what I mean, and have like 4 turnovers and I don't know, maybe 11 3-and-outs. Who knows? It's just not a good team. And Miami's going to stomp on us, and I'm going to have to answer to my uncle and my cousins who are from the Miami area, and they're going to tweak me up.
You already got the face ready too. I see it.
Yeah, I'm ready for that face like this.
Hello.
Yeah, I just see us losing. I see Darnold playing well, and I see us losing.
Is Darnold French
Just to
again?
make it a little harder. Just to make it a little harder, right? Darnold's going to play well, and just make it a little harder.
Yeah, it's not harder for me. I know what I want.
All right, fellas. So listen, great show. And to our lovely audience, thanks for putting up with us and us taking jabs at each other, indirect and completely direct jabs at one another. It's all good. BKBK, we love each other, and that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? Taking it back. So thanks for watching another episode of the BKBK podcast. We want to be able to keep bringing you the latest news and viewpoints of where sports and the culture collide, and the New York Jets reign supreme. So keep watching. You can find us on Facebook on our BKBK podcast fan page. Find us on Twitter at BKBK podcast, on Instagram at BKBK podcast, as well as on YouTube. When you go to YouTube, just type in BKBK podcast. Please hit the like and the subscribe button to show the love, and share us all over the place too. And if you can't watch us, you can also listen to us on iTunes. Just go to bkbkpodcast.podomatic.com. All right, guys and girls, that's it. So let's go Jets. Let's go Knicks. Let's see what's up with these Knicks. And all of us are Baldwinites, so let's go Baldwin Bruins. And let's go Team BKBK. We're coming at you again next week, all right, with another episode. And this is where I rip Brian's head off in person, all right?
Try it, boy. Let's go.